Hey guys, hope you're doing well. So today we're going to be transitioning from looking at trap drum beats to going a bit more back into the history of old school hip hop and looking at using existing samples and stuff to essentially mash up and create a bit of an old school hip hop beat for us from around, the 80s sort of era. To do this, I'm going to start off with a completely brand new Ableton session. We might be able to incorporate some elements from our previous project and stuff, but to start off with, we'll start with a completely fresh session, and we're going to predominantly be working in the Arrange view. So make sure you hit Tab to go to the Arrange view, and we're going to be using our audio tracks here. We're going to leave our MIDI tracks there. We might use them a bit later, but we're going to use our audio tracks. So to start off with, we're going to, of course, use the most used sample of all time, arguably, called the Amen break. I'm just going to play it here. Hopefully you guys can hear this when it plays. So you will be able to download this online for free. It's not hard to find. If you just type Amen break download into Google, you'll get there. Just make sure you grab it from somewhere that's ethical. So I'm going to start off by dragging this audio file onto one of our audio tracks in Ableton. Now, first thing that you'll notice is that it has loaded up the sound wave here. We can double click onto it, and then we have our sound wave here. Next thing to note is that it has automatically adjusted the tempo of our project so that it actually matches the speed of the Amen break. So if I play it back, it will play at the original speed. Okay, now the next thing that we're going to do is lower the tempo down. So make sure you've got warp on. That will automatically stay on. It's also set to loop, so when we drag it out, it will loop, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Hip hop normally hovers around the, let's say 80 to 100, 110 BPM type of tempo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this a few times so that we play it in a row, and I'm going to slowly wind the tempo down by clicking and dragging on the number and slowing it down until it feels about right. I reckon about there. Now you'll notice at the moment that it's not necessarily a clean loop. Okay, like if we have two of it in a row, it won't play succinctly through. Right? Like it's a bit chopped up. You can probably find a version of the loop that works a bit better, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in and I'm actually going to trim this to a usable section. So I don't want the horn blast at the start. And I know that we have a kick that starts about here. So I'm going to trim this whole first bar, right, and have it start on this kick. Now, we have this little skit, this little change in feel here. I'm going to see what it sounds like if we leave that in and do a little duplication, have two of these in a row. Let's see what this sounds like. That's not bad. That's not bad, but I kind of want the rhythm to flow a bit better. So I'm just going to actually shorten it right down to this one bar. I reckon just have... we go. Alright, so now having a look at this, so I know that loops pretty well. If we have a look, we'll notice that these are actually, like all of our sound waves are actually just off of the grid. It's all lined up with one little section off. So easy way to fix that. We could use our warp markers and move things around, but what I'm going to do instead is zoom right in here, like right into the start. Okay, I'm going to shorten. Wait, no, thank you. Going to shorten this sample just a whisk a bit, but we'll need to zoom right in to be able to do this. So I'm going to use my wave editor, zoom right in, so we can see where our kick is here. And I'm going to trim that to that point there. One more even. Let's go about there. Now that should start right on time. Might even be able to go one more. Let's have a look. We're doing some real fine editing, so I'm just clicking and dragging to zoom right in. I reckon one more. There we go. Now we've got the peaks of our transients right on top. So just by clicking and dragging, you can shift that area of your wave file essentially. And the thing is, you can zoom in as close as you need to, so you can see the full parts of the transients and such. So it's real fine editing to get things to line up. Okay, so there we go. And in here, obviously, it'll look like it's slightly off, but in this window, it all is actually where it needs to be. Okay. So I'm going to create a couple of loops of that, and that'll be the foundation of our drum beat. So let's have a listen here. Now, there are a couple of things that we can do to clean this up a little bit. If we double click on where the track is, we can pop an EQ on there, okay? And we can actually adjust the frequency spectrum to tidy things up a little bit. So for example, we can take out some of the harshness in the high end if we need to. I might see if I can dip it with a bell instead. We can also increase the low end if we really want that bass hitting hard. Change that from a shell filter to just a bell, and you can really isolate. You can really isolate that kick drum and get the snare still happening. Take out some of the noise and stuff. Alright, now next thing to note is that we can, of course, layer up some drums and stuff. So over the top of this, we can, of course, introduce our 808, right? So I'm going to click on, I'll go MIDI track 2 because it's close to the arm and break here so we can see the bits and pieces. And hopefully it'll all just line up and be in time and happy days. So the same way that we would create a MIDI clip in the clip view, we can just double click in here and create a MIDI track essentially here. Go and change our length to 4, of course, to get us that full length. Okay, and then we'll notice that you can see that little notch there. That means that we've got loop on, and it will loop past that point. So anything that we draw in, it will loop. So we can put in whatever we want here, really. We can double down on the kicks and see where the kicks would be. So I'd have 2 kicks at the start here. See how those line up. And I think it's there and there. Right? And of course, like, that's if you want the additional kick. Right? I don't mind it, so we might leave that kick in. And we can of course put some like claps and stuff in, so let's just put in some claps. Sure. Some other bits and pieces, we might see if we can get some hi-hats happening. Right, get these layered up, see what that sounds like. Or even like just double down that speed. And then have this last one be an open hi-hat and see what that sounds like. Yeah, and the thing is, it's all about volume balance as well, so we probably don't want the 808 super loud comparatively. And the thing is as well is that, you know, you don't have to like layer an 808 kit over the top if you don't want, but you can, you know. And at the same time, it also doesn't have to be all hi-hats, you know. You could, you know, just have the hi-hats on the offbeats and also insert some, I don't know, cowbell, why not? Could even pop in like a high tom or something here, why not? Let's see what this sounds like. Right, and it's all about little subtle bits and pieces. I quite like the hi-hats going that speed, so I might actually pop another one. What's that lined up with? Yeah, that there. Cool. There we go. So let's have a listen to this now. I reckon the toms are a bit much. And let's get these bad boys happening on the on beats instead of the off, I reckon. Right, so I reckon that kick needs to be bit closer as well. Okay, and it can be that simple to start a drum beat happening. And honestly, if you listen to some of the old school instrumentals and stuff, it can be that simple to start off with. And there's no reason why you can't layer other instrumental bits and pieces over the top of this to help out with this sort of stuff. Like, if we have a look, there could be in samples, if we go into and we look at toppers, there could be some different different breaks and stuff. Right, so let's try that one. Doesn't actually sound bad. Let's see if what happens if we pop this one on top here, and that'll automatically warp to the correct beat. So let's have that instead of our 808 that we've made. Let's see what happens if we have all of it. Okay, so now let's see what happens if we start off with just the arm and break, introduce this new topper, and then go to the 808. See how we can get more and more, complex sounds and tonalities and textures. And the thing is that, you might not necessarily have those toppers and stuff, but you can always look up different words and stuff. Sure. You can look up different samples and stuff that might be kicking around, or you've already heard what we can do with just the arm and break and an 808 kit, and you don't need to keep this sort of rhythm. You can change it. You can play around with it as much as you want to suit what you think will work. On top of this as well, something else that you can do, and this is the last thing I'm going to show you guys before we jump into the next video, is if we create a fresh audio track in here. When you're in the samples window, all of these bits and pieces that you have, so let's say that I want a particular kick sound, right? Let's say this one, right? Just has a little extra flair to lead into the next bar. You can drag individual samples and sounds onto the audio tracks here, zoom right in and line them up with where you want them. Okay, so let's have a look at that. Oop, there you go, one more. Right, another thing that you can do, and this, I'm sorry, I said that was going to be the last thing, but reversing sounds is super fun. I'm going to grab a crash cymbal. Sure, that one will do. I'm going to pop this in here, but what I'm going to do is essentially I'm going to start turning into a little bit of a riser, not a full riser, but a bit of an old school one, simply by right clicking and then reversing the clip. Okay, and then we can also adjust the speed of it and all that if we need to, but let's have a bit of a listen to how that sounds. Right, so obviously a bit loud in the mix there, but just by playing around with all the bits and pieces. And there's no limit to the amount of audio tracks that you can have when you've got the full version of Ableton. You can just have like a whole track just dedicated to little riser samples and stuff like this. Okay. So let's have one more. All right. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to finish the video there. The next things we're going to be looking at is layering up all sorts of other samples for more so your melodic and harmonic content. Okay. Hope you have a good day. Catch you.